Okay, thank you very much for the invitation to participate in this meeting, this very interesting meeting. Well, as I mentioned before, I'm really sorry, and thank you for this new slot to give this talk. Well, I don't know if I forgot something, but I don't remember Professor Kantayan and anyone talk about glasdegib when they discuss about the future of AML. So, well, we could consider this 10 minutes like a challenge, I think. Well, I'm Adolfo De La Fuente from the MD Anderson in Madrid, and yeah, well, the next 10 minutes we will discuss about the hedgehog pathway and glasdegib. First of all, these are my disclosures. I am not a major stockholder of the company. And well, the hedgehog signaling pathway has an important role in mechanisms controlling cell proliferation and also differentiation during embryogenesis. Studies carried out by Professor Nuslane and Vischo, as well as Lewis, with the Drosophila fly, identify the genes which are controlling and involved in the mechanism of cell differentiation and proliferation during the tissue development. And alterations in this pathway, as you see, well, resulted in a stubby and hairy appearance of the larva of the fly, and it resembles a hedgehog, and this is the reason of the name. The hedgehog pathway studies also pointed that are involved in adult stem cells in the mechanism of also proliferation and differentiation. And different alterations in this pathway are related with cancer and also with resistance to radiotherapy and chemotherapy. In particular, in AML, the alterations in this pathway resulted in high levels of GLI, and high levels of GLI are correlated with resistance to cytarabine and also with, well, consequently with an impact in event-free survival, progression-free survival, and overall survival. In a wild-type situation, the activation of PTCH1 control and silence the pathway and inhibits smoothness. Mutations with impact in this pathway resulted in an incompetent inhibition by PTCH1 on smoothnet, consequently a high level of GLI and the alteration of this pathway. Glasdegib inhibits smoothnet and restores the inhibition of the pathway. The BRIGHT study is a phase 1, phase 2 study with different arms, including patients with candidates for intensive chemo and also patients unfit for intensive approach. This is the arm with patients candidate for intensive chemo, and the approach was combined at glasdegib with the 7+3. A total of 71 patients were included. Of them, 61 were 55 years and above. And, well, the combination was safe. They reported also a complete remission rate of 46% and a median overall survival of 15 months. These results were compared with historical controls, and the comparison was positive. The arm for unfit patients, the patients non-candidate for intensive chemo, was a phase 2 with a randomization 2-to-1. This arm includes patients with 55 years and above with at least one of the following: 75 years and above, or cardiac condition, ECOG, performance status ECOG 2, and also a creatinine level higher than 1.3. The approach was combining glasdegib with low-dose RC versus low-dose RC alone, and the primary endpoint, overall survival. Again, here we can see that that's focused on the patients with AML, because this arm includes also patients with high risk MDS. The patients with AML were 77 in the arm with low-dose RC plus glasdegib and 38 in the low-dose RC. Both arms have about 50% of patients with secondary AML, and, well, as you can see, there was a higher rate of patients with low or intermediate risk cytogenetic in the exploratory arm. The complete remission rate for the combination was 20%, and only one patient in the control arm achieved a complete remission. Regarding the primary endpoint, the study met this primary endpoint, showing a significant benefit for the combination with a median overall survival of 8.3 versus 4.3 with a hazard ratio of 0.46. The follow-up was updated, and here we can see that the benefit was still clear in this update of the follow-up, and also different sub-analyses were performed. And in most of the subgroups, the benefit for the combination was also evident. It was very interesting, the sub-analysis regarding AML de novo, where we can see no so clear benefit for the combination versus the control arm, but even more interesting, the sub-analysis of the secondary AML, where we can see that the combination glasdegib low-dose LSE share a remarkable benefit regarding overall survival compared to the control arm. So based on this, the drug, well, it's effective and well tolerated and was approved by the agencies, FDA and also the European Agency, 2018 and 2020, and including the different guidelines also in US and in Europe. But it's true that all this data came in a time that we are more interested in looking with more attention to combinations based in hypomethylating agents. In fact, we have recently the data of the two new combinations that clearly show a benefit compared to hypomethylating agents in monotherapy. In fact, during the time that this trial, the BRIGHT, was ongoing, it was a time that most of us were also well more interested or have as a standard of care for patients unfit for intensive chemotherapy hypomethylating agents in monotherapy, and not the low-dose LSE that was the control arm. So we have also another point that this data has been not already published, but the combination of glasdegib plus azacitidine, we have news that this trial not clearly shows a benefit for the combination versus azacitidine in monotherapy. So why we should not forget this drug? And the reason, in my opinion, we can see in the following slides. This is the outcome for patients younger than 60 or older than 60 with AML. In younger than 60, we have a long-term survival about 50% and clearly lower than 50% in some subgroups. And in 60 years and above, the long-term survivors are less than 20%. So we have a medical unmet need. The second point is no one said that this is easy. This is trials that explore to improve the overall survival in unfit patients, and many patients randomized, and we can see that it is not a very easy field at all, and many drugs fail to show a benefit in this scenario. And we have a drug that is effective and well tolerated, and even this is small numbers, we have data that, well, show that it is feasible. So this is the main reason, in my opinion, that we have still, or we have the must, to try to explore which is the scenario, which type of patients, which type of AML, but we have a drug that is effective and we have not forget it. Thank you very much for your attention.